David Adelman needs to be in Coach of the Year talks. What he has done to help this team so far this year, with all the injuries and new personnel, shouldn't go overlooked. Also, that Bucks team is some hot garbage.
There's a difference between being in Coach of the Year talks and being higher in it. And to be honest with you, I can agree with that, Swiper. I can get with David Adelman for what's been going on with that Denver team, having Joker out of the lineup, having Aaron Gordon out of the lineup for 2 months. But I think that the Coach of the Year today is Mazzulla in Boston for what he's done with that group, for what he's done with that group, to lose 4 of your 5 main cogs and to continue the same system and to be just as productive with new guys. It's not like he's got the same guys. He's got different guys. I mean, I got Luka Garza. I got Anthony Simons, right? And I like Luka Garza, Mars. Let's be clear about this. But Luka Garza is a rotation guy. But I really like Luka Garza. And he's got the Spanish kid Hernandez. And they still at the top of the league in long ball shooting. They still at the top of the league in defense. They still are one of the better.
Denver's better though at long ball shooting.
Okay, the reason why Denver is better is because
Jokic hasn't been here.
No. But here's the thing: just before Jokic tore his knee up, well, he didn't tear his knee up, but before he strained his knee, he hadn't missed a game. So that was 2 weeks ago. So
you realize that's going to be every reason why no coach ever wins Coach of the Year when they're coaching Jokic. So they'll always have that excuse.
No, because
Jokic doesn't miss time.
No, that you have Jokic. That's why Malone never finished top 3. Like this, it's the same thing with LeBron, except for the 1 year that Mike won it in 2009. Yeah.
So schematically, because I'm not going to pretend I've watched every game since Jokic has been up, so I'm gonna ask Swiper, what's changed? Like, because obviously you have to adjust when Jokic ain't there, and Jamal Murray's been missing some of these games, and Aaron Gordon on this. So schematically, what are Denver doing differently to still have success?
Well, I want to be fair to Adam, and he actually changed the offense up to when Jokic was here. They've been running higher and generating more 3-pointers this year, in part because of personnel. But one of the things that he's done that I think that he hadn't got a lot of credit for is particularly with Cam Johnson, and then it switched to Peyton Watson. He would run this. Basically, they run this long form pin down DHO where they have basically you run a long DHO, and then the ball handler will go set a screen for Cam Johnson. The Cam Johnson runs up off of the pin down and turns into a DHO, turns into a pick and roll, and then it opens the floor up into this middle of the floor pick and roll opportunity with the corner. He's brought in Zeke Naji, Deron Holmes, or whoever the big's in. They play at the nail. They're running DHO pin down actions off of the nail area. Like, he's increased the amount of 3-point looks they're getting just generated based off of basic actions. Because what they used to do, they created 3-point opportunities for the corner and they created opportunities at the rim with Malone. But they are creating more above the break threes than they did even last year. And it's not just out of typical doubles with Jokic either. Also, it does matter that defensively that he's, I think, utilized his personnel in ways that, I just think Malone just didn't feel like he had the ability to. And I think, even with Jalen Pickett, who's a second-round pick, Hunter Tyson, who's a second-round pick, obviously Peyton Watson having a career year, I don't think is an accident with David Adelman. I think he's empowered more of the team. I think I told you, Mars, in the preseason that one of the things David Adelman did is he gave Peyton Watson ball handling responsibilities versus the Clippers in the preseason, because they knew they needed an additional ball handler and they knew they needed to get Peyton Watson up to speed in case they play versus OKC again. And Murray can't bring the ball up the floor. AG can't bring the ball up the floor. And if Cam Johnson can't. And they started to open up the offense to allow for other people to be able to flourish. Now, Jokic's numbers are insane. But so, obviously that helps, for everyone else on the floor. But Tim Hardaway Jr. has not just, gotten a green light, but he's basically, allowed for Tim Hardaway Jr. to always have at least one screen being set for him at every single opportunity. And he's currently shooting the best he's ever shot in his career. And I think a lot of that is Jokic, but it's also because of David Adelman, just how he's opened the floor for him. I think the zone, obviously stuff they were doing with the 2-3, they've actually become pretty good at it. I think they implemented a lot of different coverages, especially just how they're showing, recovering, hedging, drop. I mean, they literally have displayed it all in terms of switching and stuff as well. I also just think they're just allowing for, even without Jokic. They're not a good offense or a good defense in the last 7 games they play without Jokic. At all. They're mid across the board. But what they are doing is that in clutch situations, they're putting so much pressure on you and limiting turnovers that by the time they get to the fourth quarter, they feel like they can beat you down the stretch of a game. They did the same thing to the Raptors. They did the same thing to the Celtics, and they just did the same thing to the Bucks yesterday as well. It's just I think they've just changed up their philosophy to be less reliant on like super high volume passing plays, which their assists are down. And so they're then saying that we're going to turn down the turnovers with that as well, which creates more opportunity for you to score and not to have like a lot of leak outs and run outs and all that kind of stuff.
So can I use that same logic with With Joe Mazzulla in terms of his style of play? So I got a bunch of new guys who aren't.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of new guys who aren't accustomed to the system. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to speed this thing up. That's why they play with one of the slowest paces in the league. I want to make sure that guys are in position to be where they can be the most effective offensively, which would explain why they don't run as nearly as much as they did when Jason Tatum was on the crew, when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were playing, when Al Horford and those guys were playing, because they were creating turnovers, even though they are doing that now. But I think that the game was a lot more controlled offensively.
They were 29th in pace last year. They're 30th in pace this year.
Okay, so that means they go slower.
Yeah, but here's the difference. And the year that they won the NBA championship, I think they were 21. And you had ball handlers that I feel like you can trust more than you do now.
They were 18th in pace that year, or 19th.
I thought they were 21. I'm sorry. I knew they were around that.
Close
like
enough. Yeah,
20,
close enough.
Something like that. And again, because I think that was guys that you can trust with the basketball. We can play faster. In addition to us playing faster, we can get guys that can get quick hits. We don't really have as much as that. We don't really have as much of that as we did back then. So because we don't have as much of that, we have to be more controlled on offense. We have to be more precise on offense, which would explain why Jaylen Brown, when he gets in transition, he's more of a one-on-one guy, because that's why I think he trusts the most. In addition to him,
47% of their shots from threes this year.
They still
53 last year. They're shooting.
They still shoot the three. I'm not arguing that point. I'm not arguing that point that they still shoot. I'm not arguing that the point that they don't shoot the three, because they still shoot the three. They still move the basketball. But who do they trust the most in this offense? They trust Derek White because he's there. They trust Jaylen Brown. They trust Pritchard. Sam Hauser, who was also a rotation guy, I don't think that they trust him as much as they would when we had the other guys, because I think that he was looking at a lot. I think he was looking at a lot more open looks than he would previous to this, right? So with that being said, I feel like what Joe Mazzulla has done with this Celtic team defensively, there's a lot of switching. There's a lot more gang rebounding going on with them. I feel like Kada is been controlling the glass a lot more effectively than he did in the past, and I think that that's really helped their defense. In addition to him doing that,
your biggest reason why you think that David Adelman shouldn't be in front of Mazzulla because one of them's coaching Jokic, though.
That's not why. No,
the Nuggets have the best offense of all time right now.
I didn't say what. So why didn't I say that about Oklahoma City last year when they
Boston are number 2 in offense, right?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, to be fair, the Nuggets were like a 125 when Jokic was there, so they dropped to like a 23 in the last 7 games or something like that. So
125, 123, same.
That's a huge difference.
Pretty close.
That sounds the same.
It's the panel. Religion get built on cam. With a check, throw smoke, and the host go ham. You ain't never seen hoops out here did raw. Every take got weight, every night we drop. This that barbershop. Courtside, worldwide tone. Welcome to the only show that really feel like numbers jumping like the score.